Welcome to the first 10 minutes of Inside. In my first 10-minute series, I take an uninterrupted look at a game starting from the menu so you can get a true first impression look. For the first 10 minutes or so, there's just gameplay, no commentary. Then I give you my first impression thoughts afterwards. The timestamp for my commentary will be in the video description below. Let's get started. Inside. So this is a dark looking game. Shout out to Miss Blue May in my Discord. She was the original one to kind of turn me on to this game. Just give me, put it on my radar, I guess you could say. But yeah, I love this dark atmosphere. I played Limbo, which is Playdead's other, I guess, side scroll platformer, whatever you want to call it. But the setting for this, it's a lot more lifelike. Limbo was a bit more fantastical, I guess you could say. But wow, this game has, well, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it. I've played a lot of this game so far. I haven't beaten it yet, but at the time of me recording this, I've played quite a bit, so things really change or get more involved the later you go. But yeah, so who are these people? What is all this about? Why are we wandering through the forest and kind of sneaking about? But yeah, okay, so these little interactions right here are just incredible. They feel truly real. Like the animations are greatly done on both our character, but also just the foreground and the background stuff. It's just a lot of fun. It sets the tone. As you're going to hear in my scripted voiceover in just a few, it really conveys a sense of horror, honestly. And I guess you could call this a horror game. Like I said, I'm going to talk about it later, but it's just the atmosphere, the dark atmosphere, the colors, the muted colors. This right here. So I don't think, oh, I know this isn't the part. But these dogs that you can see in the foreground, like if we're sneaking about, dogs have a heightened sense of hearing, a heightened sense of smell. It really paints a picture of fight or flight in which all you can do is just fly and run. But yeah, so right here, little puzzles. Obviously, there's a gap that's too large to jump, but also a wall on the other side that's too high to climb up. So we need some sort of object to be able to propel ourselves over. And you hold, at least on Xbox, you hold B to do some of these actions. So that's kind of your action button. Okay, right here is when it first starts. Oh, you can hear the... Oh, see. Oh, it's just... You just feel it. You can feel the tension when you're playing this. Like, look how fast that dog is. My heartbeat was elevated when I play certain parts of this. And especially there's a part later on that I won't have in this video when you're... how am I going to say this without spoiling it? Let's just say you're traversing through something and there's a entity that you're trying to outrun, and it's pretty intense, honestly. So again, I've talked about this. The background and the foreground both play a key here. This foreground kind of blocks your sight of the character every once in a while, but it really kind of gives it that 3D vibe. That those layers are there. So, and then the background here, well, look at that, like creepy. He's doing the flashlight. You gotta hide. But then the background. So I would love to see what this game looks like kind of in the 3D world space, like with the background stuff and then your character's area and then the foreground. I would just like to see how they built it in the 3D engine. I think it'd be really cool. Ooh, run. I've done this a few times, but for the most part, this is not all that difficult. Well, I don't know what that means, but yeah, that's what happens when you don't escape, and it restarts you right away. So on one hand, I think it would be I think it would be really cool if this game made you restart from the beginning every time you got caught. But on the same space, like that would make it really, really difficult, because if you don't know what you're doing, to have to start out again from the beginning, ooh, they're shooting at us, would be really difficult. And I don't know. More dogs. Okay, now that there's going to be sort of a lull in the action, I want to expound upon what I was saying before. So, if this game had, say, a hard mode, where every time you died or some sort of fate befalled you in which it resets you, it would be really, really interesting and sort of a good challenge if it started you back from the beginning. And the reason I think that is because the overall concept and feel of this game is very dark, and I don't want to say survivally, because there's not much about survival other than just going through the levels and where you find yourself. But it's just, I feel like that would be a solid challenge. And whether you could do it from the beginning or you have to beat the game first, I just think that'd be really fun. Now, there are parts later on in the game where I would be totally screwed in a run like that for the first time, because you have no idea what you're encountering. With that said, I don't think the game really has any sort of challenges or puzzles that aren't, so far, that can't be kind of just solved at first look and first sight or whatever. Everything that happens, except for there's one part, I guess, and I won't spoil it, and I don't even think I have footage of it, but based on what you know about the game and the structure and the mechanics, when you get to this part, you kind of die because you do what you would think you would be expected to do, if that makes sense. And then you realize, okay, well, I have to do something else, because that, which was previously my method of operanda, has now caused me to reset. So now I have to rethink through this, do something else, and make a different decision. And so that's the only instance of that where I felt like, okay, I wouldn't have really known what to do on first glance. And I probably would have, if I was this kid or this man or whatever it is, I would have died. So whatever. Anyway, I'm going to move on to my my overall thoughts. I have sat down to write my thoughts on Inside a few different times now. Each time prior to this, I couldn't quite figure out what to write. And it's not that I don't have much to say on the game, because you just heard me talk for like 7 minutes off the cuff. There's a great deal that could be said about a game that doesn't seem all that deep. And I think my issue was that I couldn't quite figure out what I was playing when playing Inside. On the surface, it is a side-scrolling puzzle game, but even after 1 minute of gameplay, you get a sense of some deeper, more sinister undertone. I mean, mechanically, yeah, it's a side-scroller with puzzles, but the way the puzzles come about, the setting in which they exist, man, it's creepy. I'm about halfway through Inside, and I still don't know why things are the way they are. I know, that's a vague comment, but within the first 10 minutes of this game, it is very clear to us that, as the player, we are being hunted. Or maybe not hunted, but we are an outcast. And to be discovered ends poorly for us. This dark setting and literal dark design is really compelling. I suppose you could call this a horror game. There are heart-pounding moments, to be sure, for me. Anytime dogs are involved, I run like hell as far as I can away from them. You know, this sort of horror sort of reminds me of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Have you played that? If you do, you know what I'm talking about. This concept of fight or flight, but the ability to fight has been removed. In this case, it's the best video games have ever gotten to being able to convey a sense of fear or terror, and I'm talking Amnesia and Inside. When you can fight something in a video game, the veil is pulled back, and now it's just a matter of overcoming the thing meant to create fear with your skill of playing the game, so gunplay or whatever. Take zombie games, for example. Rather, let's be specific and take Left 4 Dead, for example. Zombies are inherently scary because they represent the bestial and carnal nature of humanity. Something so driven by its need to feed that it will eat its own kind. That's my very non-scientific explanation for zombies, but I don't think anyone would deny that the idea and concept of them is scary. In Left 4 Dead, though, the basic zombie is sort of an afterthought to the player because they can easily be dispatched just by shooting. But when you hear the soft crying of a witch or the roar of a tank, that's when the heart starts beating and sweat appears on your forehead. These two creatures represent a change in the simple fight or flight mechanic. In most cases, you can't simply choose flight, and to choose fight is never easy. So what was once easy to fight, the zombies, which is again the easier of the two options, is now hard to fight, which is a scary concept. Alright, so tangent over. The point with all this is that Inside removes the fight option and only provides the flight. And though I'm not physically scared outside of the game, it does such a fantastic job of creating a sense of urgency and fear. Because of this flight-only mechanic, there are several heart-pounding moments that come later in the game where you really have to feel like you're outsmarting your pursuers. It's these moments that give Inside a refreshing feel on puzzles. Puzzles aren't simply do this thing, so this thing over in another area does something which allows you to do some overarching thing. Yeah, super confusing. In Inside, it does have these sorts of puzzles, but there's also quite a few that are time-based, such as this part with the dogs and this fence. Of all the games I've done so far for the first 10-minute series, Inside is probably the chief one I'd recommend just experiencing. It's hard to describe the game because the setting is so very dark and mysterious. There's not really any characters to discuss, but the game still brings out those strong emotions of fear, curiosity, and even wonder. A lot of the backdrops are not only scenic, but also help paint the picture of what is happening in the world around us. Oh, and quite a few of them actually hint to puzzles or mechanics that are to come. With that said, I don't think I can just outright recommend that this is an absolute buy. This is a try title at its finest. Oh, and if you're new to the series, I rate each game as either buy, try, or avoid. In this case, the $20 price tag of Inside feels a little steep. Maybe that's just because the replayability of the game feels low compared to other $20 games I've reviewed, but also it really presents itself as more of an interactive cinematic more than a game. I've been told by a friend of mine that there are actually 2 endings. I know nothing beyond that, and so I suppose there could be replayability for those wanting both endings, but Inside is truly linear. Is it worth that $20? For you, maybe. For me, I don't think so. The game is on Xbox Game Pass, so if you're an Xbox gamer like me, I do recommend downloading it and giving it a try. It's definitely a fun and noteworthy title, and it's a fun type of horror game in that you're not crapping your pants at every turn. Well, we've come to the end of this video this week. Thank you so much for watching. I enjoy spending time with you each week discussing my thoughts on the truly fascinating art of video games. If you'd like to continue that conversation or just be a part of it in general, and not just video games, but board games, whiskey, all sorts of things, consider joining my Discord community. Though I obviously do not market my content to a specific audience, my Discord community is comprised of mostly adults, and it's kind of like a gaming family. Anyway, we'd love to have you join, be a part of the discussion, post silly memes, etc. There are rules, like all good communities, but if you respect your fellow gamer, me included, they should be easy to follow. Again, thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit the bell notification button if you'd like to see more videos like this one. And I suppose I'll speak to you in the next one. Take care.